Welcome, everybody, back to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. In the upper left corner, we got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, the Ohio State University's own, College Cottrell.
Gene, how you feeling today? I'm feeling good.
Fired up, baby. We could get a Penn State, Ohio State national championship. Big Ten, baby.
Hey, Big Ten been trying to tell guys for 2 years now. Big Ten's the best conference out there, and you're seeing more and more of that as the Bowl Mania season keeps rolling on.
Bro, Big Ten's had a season. In the upper right corner, speaking of a Big Ten win, talking about a team that wanted to be in the college football playoff. Why did we put Alabama in? You know why? Because Michigan, little 7-6 Michigan, little under the radar rebuilding year Michigan, laid a smackdown on their Rudy Poo candy asses. Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, Mr. William Shawcross.
First off, we were 7-5, so watch your mouth. Secondly,
7-6, bro.
I would like to point out to everybody that is by far the most enthusiastic 30 seconds of college football talk we've gotten from Gene in the 3.5 years we've been doing this show. I would like to point that out.
Bro, first of all, you know what's funny? I've gotten a first from you multiple weeks this year. Remember the breakdown I gave at Penn State and Oregon? You said it's the first time he gave a complete college breakdown.
It was very good. It was very good.
I'm improving.
You are. I'm proud of you. Proud of you.
I can't just be an NFL NBA guy, right? Like, you can't just like me for my looks.
Yeah,
I got to expand my horizons.
Especially when you're not the NFL guy now, and I'm not the college guy now. So we've all swapped roles, I guess, this year.
Be very clear. I'm still the NFL guy. You might have had the better pick'em season. I'm still the NFL guy. Just like you're still College Cottrell. Just like that Scholastic Shally. Obscure Sports Shally, College Cottrell, NFL Gene. That's fact.
He hasn't dusted off the obscure sports in a while. Maybe we need to get back there now that we're approaching the end of the football season.
Billy said, book the house, bro. Get it done. It's done. He's tired of it. He's waiting for it.
Yeah, bro. Go argue with Jamie.
Oh, damn. The Dolphins are a very organized organization. By the way, we're going to talk about that tonight. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a couple fun comments about one of my favorite coaches, Brian Flores, who I think, by the way, none of this mess will be happening in Miami if he was still there. I don't care what Ryan Fitzpatrick's comments are, but we'll talk about that. We'll get into that. We got college football. We got NFL. We got the coaching carousel. By the way, I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not trying to be that guy. But I will be that guy every single year until it changes. A couple of coaches that were given dog shit situations. One first-time head coach with the worst roster in football with a rookie quarterback. And another first-time head coach with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback, given 1 year and then fired. Just saying. It keeps happening. I'm tired of it happening. We'll talk about it. We'll get into it.
The one is way more surprising than the other.
Which
one? Just based off history. I would expect a lot better from the Patriots. The Raiders, I don't disagree with anything you said, but it's just facts. Like that. I mean, guys that runs that organization, the Looney Tunes. So I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but I get it. But you're talking about the same organization that gave Josh McDaniels 3 years and gave Antonio Pierce 1. That's a problem.
But we're also talking about the same organization that didn't hire Rich Bisaccia when we all felt like he was the right guy there. So
was the right guy, correct?
Was the right guy.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. I'm just saying I'm not surprised they didn't do the right thing.
And then we got some major news coming around in the Fox Sports realm, which we'll talk about tonight under headlines. We got a lot to get into. Hey, listen, we got a lot to get into, but we got to start with the college football playoff. We got to start with Penn State, Notre Dame tomorrow night, Ohio State, Texas. I mean, it's a home game for the Texas Longhorns. They're going to be playing in Dallas, Texas. Ohio State's traveling to Dallas. Penn State, Notre Dame is at least being played in the sunny state of Florida.
Not
Ohio
Sunday.
State versus Texas is being played in Texas. That's a wild thing. And by the way, we did the recaps last week. We did the recaps on Friday. That's already done. We're going to talk about these two previews, these two football games. I'm fired up for it, guys. Gentlemen, I am fired up for the college football semifinals. 3 of the final 4 teams that I projected to be here are here. The 4th team being my team, Penn State, which I did not project to be here, but I'm happy that they are here. I'm talking about before the season started. I gave you Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame. But that's where we're at now. Are you thinking back on it? I know you are. I remember you are. Remember I said Notre Dame, baby. Had them week 1. You said I was crazy. But we got to get into it. We got to get into it. Let's talk about the appetizer. Let's talk about the appetizer. Let's talk about Penn State, Notre Dame.
I don't think either one of these are appetizers.
Penn State, Notre Dame is the appetizer. The main event's Texas, Ohio State. 2 of the 5 biggest programs in college football right now. Notre Dame's up there. Penn State's up there, but
they're all top 10 blue blood programs, bro.
I'm talking about my little Penn State. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Is this how we're going to do this?
Well, I think that Notre Dame, and this is where I'll start, right? And I want to say this comment, and I said it last week, and I kind of want you guys to be able to expand on it. I think Notre Dame is Penn State light. I think they're Penn State light.
Agreed.
Like if we were projecting a team, like quarterback room, not as good. Running back room, not as good. Almost. It's there. It's close. Tight end, receivers, Penn State. Defense, just barely Penn State. I think Penn State is better everywhere. Yet all the money is on Notre Dame. I think that when I seen this spread being Notre Dame was minus points with their favorite in this football game, and I also seen that all the money was going on Notre Dame, I could not have been more confident about my Penn State Nittany Lions.
You'll see a lot of late money coming on Penn State.
That's good. That's where sharp money comes from.
I mean, the money lines come down dramatically. I mean, earlier this afternoon, I think Notre Dame was minus 120, and Penn State's even now. So, I mean, it's literally a pick 'em. I mean, I have my prediction for the game. Cottrell's his, and I know what you have. So,
why don't you start then, brother? Why don't you start? Why don't you lead us off?
Again, I think to Gene's point, to just kind of jump on it and go with it. I think they're very evenly matched teams. Excuse me. They both want to do the same thing. They both want to run the ball and play defense. I think Penn State is a little bit more well equipped to throw the ball with Drew Aller and Tyler Warren and that receiving core. I think he's a better quarterback than Riley Leonard is. I think Riley Leonard's obviously a better running quarterback. He's more mobile. He can make plays with his legs. He can extend plays, extend drives. That could be an issue for Penn State. But I'll keep this simple, and I'll keep this one, pretty short. I said it on Saturday, and I'll say it again. I truly believe whichever quarterback comes out of this game with better stats, I think that team wins. I think it's going to come down to a Drew Aller versus Riley Leonard. Penn State's got the 2-headed monster running back between Katron and Nick Singleton. Obviously, Notre Dame has Jeremiah Love. All 3 of them are just elite. You would love to have any one of the 3 of them. I think whichever quarterback plays better, whichever quarterback makes plays, and more importantly, which quarterback stays away from the turnovers and giving a short field to the other offense and keeping their defense off the field to be fresh and rest, I think that team wins the game. I picked Penn State on Saturday, and I'm not wavering from it. I think Penn State wins 24-17.
Cottrell, you're on the clock.
So I agree. I mean, I think a lot of this is going to come down to as long as Penn State plays their brand of football, they don't turn the ball over and essentially don't give up the big play on special teams, whether it be a punt block or a kick return touchdown. I said it last week on this show that Notre Dame is the absolute definition of an opportunist. If you give them any ounce of space, they're going to take and they're going to run with it. You saw it in the Georgia game last week. It was literally 6-3, and ultimately what happened? They get the turnover right before right before halftime, and then coming out of the second half, you get the kickoff return touchdown, and that was all she wrote for Georgia. Is much as Stockton was moving the ball down the field in that second half, that was really it. So I think if Penn State can just do a good job of staying away from the turnover and, not giving up that big play on special teams, they're going to be in great shape in this one. And of course, that's a lot easier said than done. I mean, Notre Dame has had phenomenal special teams the entire year, and the defense has been doing a great job of taking the ball away. But I just think that this Penn State team is well equipped to handle the nature of the beast there. I think if it gets to a point where, Penn State is consistently moving the ball down the field, you're going to see Notre Dame team. They're going to fight. They're going to fight like hell because they're a resilient group. But that's not a team that's built to score, 35 points in a football game. That's not what they want to do. They want to limit possessions. And if they do score that much, it's because they're scoring on defense. Like if you look at the USC game from earlier in the year where they had 2 pick sixes. So for me, I'm rolling with Penn State here. I think it's probably a 10-point win for Penn State. I'd say like 27-17, something around there. But I think Penn State takes care of business rather comfortable.
So the one thing that concerns me about this football game is James Franklin and him getting in his own way in a situation in which Drew Auer loves to force the ball. He forces the ball to, obviously, Tyler, listen, their tight end is one of the best tight ends in the nation, right? So he is one of those guys that you want to force the ball to. But when you're looking at Tyler Warren, every passing play, a good defensive coordinator and a good defensive coach will find a way to take that away from you. Penn State has to be patient. They have to be patient, and they have to continue running the football. Singleton's your home run hitter, but I want to see more of the K train. Give me Katron Allen all day. He ran the ball better versus Boise. He's been running the ball better. He runs stronger, harder. He hits the gaps better. He hits the holes better. Listen, Nick Singleton's going to break that big one for you. That's why you got to keep him involved. But I think Penn State's going to have to run the football and play field position. No, don't turn the football over. Don't force what's not there. And Drew Auer's got to be able to take his shots. But when you take your shots, be able to, like, you're throwing that ball to where only the receiver can get it, right? You're being very cautious on not turning the football over. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, guys, you might call me cocky. You might call me overconfident. I don't see how Notre Dame can consistently, keyword consistently, move the football versus that Penn State defense. That Penn State defense, I think that the athletes at the cornerback position are better than the wide receivers they'll be going up against. I think the athletes on the defensive line will be able to run down Riley Leonard. And I think Penn State's game plan in this game will be to make sure you stop the run and make sure you make Riley Leonard throw the ball over top. Cut the field off.
The game plan is going to be the same for both teams. I mean, Notre Dame's going to try to do the same exact thing. Notre Dame's going to put their corners against Penn State's wide receivers, stack the box, and make Drew Auer throw the ball. So they're going to, I mean, it's literally a carbon copy of looking across from yourself. I think
Drew Auer has a way better arm.
Agreed.
Riley Leonard.
Agreed. I picked Penn State. I'm just saying the game plan for both these teams, it's not going to be rocket science, and it's not going to be different. Both teams want the quarterback to beat them and make them lose by throwing the football. Notre Dame is not going to lose by letting Penn State run up and down the field, and Penn State's not going to lose by letting Jeremiah Love run up and down the field. That's what they're not going to do. So it's going to, again, whoever secondary plays better. I think they're both very good. They're both top 10. And that's why I said I think whichever quarterback plays better is going to win this football game. If Drew doesn't throw interceptions, if he can make plays downfield, I think Penn State's got a great chance. If Riley Leonard can, run that RPO and run and throw the ball effectively and keep the ball away from Penn State, I think Notre Dame's got a chance to win. I really think the game squarely lies on the shoulders of both of those two.
Gene, I think you made a good point, though, when you talk about, Riley Leonard, and you don't think the Notre Dame offense is going to be able to consistently move the ball down the field, because you kind of saw that against Georgia. Again, outside of, they had the 2 field goals, but literally outside of that, I mean, they had a 8-yard drive to score the touchdown right before half, then the kickoff return. So like outside of that, they weren't moving the ball rather effectively there. So like if you don't put yourself in that position, I think you can, if you don't turn the ball over and you don't have those plays on special teams, and you could play a C+ game against that Notre Dame team if you don't do both of those things and still give yourself an opportunity to win. Now, I'm not saying you're going to absolutely win the game by having that kind of performance, but if you have a C+ game and literally don't turn the ball over, don't give a big play on special teams, you're going to stick in the game with Notre Dame no matter what. So if your offense, if you bring an extra element where your offense is having a B+, A- caliber game, you're going to be in a absolutely great position. So I thought that was a really good point there. And, I think Penn State ultimately has a better defense than what we saw from Georgia last week. And, I think that's going to, prove to be true here in the game.
We all got Penn State. Let's talk about game 2. The Ohio State University traveling to Texas to take on the Longhorns. Although, Cottrell, this is your team. This is your squad. They went out and dominated versus Oregon. They dominated versus Tennessee. They looked great. They looked incredible. Tell me the keys to victory for Ohio State to beat Texas. What are you looking for in this Ohio State team to go into Texas and win this football game?
I mean, I think it's going to be more of the same. You've seen it the first 2 games that Ohio State's offense has come out very aggressive. They've been throwing to set up the run as opposed to trying to run to set up the pass. And, I saw Emmanuel Acho, a name that we'll talk about later on in the show. He said something about, Will Howard being the, 4th best quarterback in the playoff. And to an extent, I probably have him 3rd. But I mean, I think it's you can flip flop, him or Riley Leonard there. But to that point, though, Will's been playing lights out. When you give him the confidence, and you really don't have to do much, because if Jeremiah Smith's wide open, if you're a quarterback at the Division I level, you should be hitting the wide open guy. That's not to say that Will hasn't made some, great passes back-to-back weeks, a touchdown to Emeka Egbuka up the seam, which has, it was an incredible pass both times. But I think for me, the big key is Chip Kelly needs to stay aggressive on offense. You want to keep passing the ball down the field. That first drive, I want to see 5 to 6 passes. I want to see you making an effort to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith in space. You don't have to always hunt the big play. I mean, when it's there, of course, I want him to take it. But, I mean, even the play against Oregon, the first touchdown that Jeremiah had, it was a little drag pattern, and he kind of split the defense and then ultimately took it the rest of the way. Will didn't have to do much there with that. So I think if you're able to do that, then you're going to be in great shape. And then defensively, I think it's, again, more of the same. I want the pressure. I want the defensive line getting after Quinn Ewers and making him uncomfortable in that pocket. Texas has shown you in back-to-back games that they will have these lulls where the offense gets a little stagnant and, Quinn struggles to navigate the offense. And I'm not even just saying it's on Quinn, but in that game against Arizona State, you saw they were having troubles running the ball down the field against Arizona State in the second half. And I think that was a big reason why the offense looked like dramatically different than what it did in that first half. And I think for Ohio State, you need to exploit that. You need to get out to that lead, especially if Texas is going to give you that opening to do so. Because against Arizona State, Texas won that game because they had that cushion. Against Clemson, Texas won that game because they had that cushion. I think for Ohio State, if you can minimize that cushion or even jump out to a lead early, then you're going to be in good shape.
Okay. Shally, how do you see this game going? Because I know Cottrell's picking Ohio State. We don't need to expand on that. He's picking Ohio State. We'll get a score in a minute. Shally, how do you see this game playing out?
I think it's whichever team doesn't kind of fall into one of those lulls, and whichever team can execute for 60 minutes is going to win. I think Texas has the unique ability to kind of, for lack of a better term, use the blueprint that Michigan used. They have a defensive line that if they can get pressure with their front four and contain the run with just keeping a linebacker or so in, they can drop 5 or 6 in the coverage and kind of, limit the damage of what Emeka and Jeremiah Smith can do. That's how you're going to beat them. Get Will Howard off his spot, make him throw the ball before he wants to. Not let Travion Henderson and Quishon Junkins go nuts and have to keep 6 or 7 in the box to stop the run. Texas is equipped to do that. On the other side of the ball, I think they're equipped to give Ohio State trouble in that aspect. I think their offensive line, Ohio State did a great job of just sending 4 against Oregon and getting pressure on Dylan Gabriel, and be able to drop everybody back there and literally letting Caleb Downs just kind of run around and make plays. He really had no responsibility. They can't let Jim Knowles and that defense get in that situation. They have to make Caleb Downs have responsibility, take away one side of the field, kind of limit his playmaking, because he's playing on another level right now defensively. I think Texas is equipped to make Ohio State bring pressure with extra guys if they have to. But Cottrell mentioned the one thing for me that's happened. I've watched Texas 4 times this year, and it's happened in all 4 games. They go into a lull where it looks like they're almost disinterested in playing football. They can't get a first down. They can't run the ball. They can't do anything positive. I think the running game is going to be horribly important for Texas. They have to be able to establish the run early with Blue and the backup back, and at least keep the back end of that Ohio State defense honest. And Cottrell mentioned something earlier about kind of using the pass to set up the run. I think Texas has to do the same thing. And if they can do that, I think they have a shot. But that being said, I think Ohio State found something, and again, I think Oregon had an awful game plan against them. And they just hit too many big plays early, and Oregon kind of just really was kind of shell shocked and just didn't know what happened. And they were down 21-0, and they were kind of out of the game. But I do think this is a closer game. I think the spread's indicative about what it's going to be, because I do think Texas's defense can hang with Ohio State a little bit better than Oregon's. But that being said, I think Ohio State is too much. I'm going with Ohio State.
Look, I'll tell you, you're going to find out everything you need to know about Quinn Ewers after this football game. All the skeptics say he turns the ball over too much. He always throws that interception in the game, and his stats will tell you that. Like, Quinn Ewers has some bad turnovers this year. There's no doubt about it. He has allowed other teams to get into games with bad turnovers, bad interceptions. The eye test tells you how live that arm is, right? You have to watch those 2 passes on the 4th and 16 and then the first play of the second overtime. Quinn Ewers just throws absolute dimes. This guy's got a frozen rope. This is a kid that grew up in Texas, grew up a Longhorns fan, went to Ohio State. When C.J. Stroud decided to stay another year, Quinn Ewers transferred out, went back to Texas. That's what it was. Texas is now sitting there with in my opinion, very, very clearly the best quarterback remaining in this college football playoff. But can they show it? I think their defensive line and offensive line in the trenches can be able to pass protect and stop the run, unlike a lot of teams Ohio State can play. You said it, Charlie, the Michigan blueprint. I think the one thing that shows up is Jahdae Barron, a first-round draft pick cornerback out of Texas, is going to be matched up versus this Ohio State wide receiving core. And you're going to find out what this kid's got. And if you can give him safety help and allow him to play aggressive like he has all season, you will find that out that Texas can win this football game. Here's where I get nervous when I'm picking Texas. I'm picking Texas, right? I'm going to be very clear there. But here's where I get nervous picking Texas. If Ohio State can run the ball versus a 6-man box or a 7-man box, then Texas is going to be in trouble in this football game.
No, toast.
So Texas has to be able to stop that run to give safety help in this football game. And it's not just one wide receiver on Ohio State. Emeka Egbuka is still over there, and that guy is incredible also. Ohio State will have the ability to move the ball up and down the field. It's whether or not Texas can match them or slow them down. I think they can. The game is in Texas. If I'm picking a quarterback, my money's on Quinn Ewers. I think this is his step-up moment, right? Quinn Ewers could have a great football game here and declare for the NFL draft. And if he has a bad football game here, you might see him in the transfer portal, because it's the difference between him being a top 10 draft pick or playing another year in college. I'm a Quinn Ewers guy. I've been a Quinn Ewers guy, but this game can completely shut me up. I like Texas.
Going Ohio State 34, Texas 27.
I'll go 31-28 Texas.
And I got 31-17 Ohio State.
Woo! It's a beating.
For the Penn State game, just to give my score and get it on record, I have it 30-20 Penn State.
10-point game. Same as I got a 10-point game there as well. I mean, I just think too, one thing that is not in Texas's favor is, I mean, you got probably the second best tackle in the country, not 100% healthy, and Kevin Banks. He's been battling injuries basically throughout the entire playoffs here, and he re-aggravated his injury last week. And then also Isaiah Bond with that injury as well there. I mean, regardless of that, I still would like Ohio State, just how they've been playing, but I think that also factors into, how I see the game going.
Great moments are born from great opportunities. It's what Quinn Ewers will have Friday night.
Oh, and
Friday night.
And I'm a Quinn guy. I always have. Even after he left, I was still I hated the decision to leave, but I was still a Quinn guy. But you said one thing, that you said CJ Stroud going back was why he left. No, he went back because that following year Texas was able to have NIL, and Texas was where he wanted to go all along. But he was the best quarterback in the country. He wasn't about to not make any money coming out of high school. So let's just call that what it is.
Well, we had a whole conversation about him not wanting to compete and blah, blah, blah. So I'm just using that based off of what we talked about, Cottrell.
He wanted the money.
That's fair. And I'll tell you right now, I look at this quarterback class that's coming out. I think he's the most pro-ready quarterback. I really genuinely believe that. But he can prove me right or he can prove me wrong on Friday night. If he goes out and has a great game versus Ohio State, you have the ability of Quinn Ewers being a top 3 pick in this draft. You do. You watch how quarterbacks fly up charts every year. If Anthony Richardson was pick number 4 and Drake May was pick number 3, you going to tell me that Quinn Ewers can't be a top 3 pick?
And Anthony Richardson's name has been mentioned more times this week than I can count as the cautionary tale. I don't think you're going to see it this year.
But Quinn's not that. He's a prototypical quarterback.
Okay. I mean, if you look at everybody's scouting list coming out, Quinn Ewers is in the top 5 quarterbacks this year. Not saying I agree with that. I also am not saying I wouldn't take Quinn Ewers 3 overall either.
I just seen a mock draft that had him going 3rd overall.
From who?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's a reputable mock draft. It's not like probably Walter picks or something of that nature. That's where I look at mock drafts. Let's see. I'll see if I can find one for you right now.
I'll say this. I think the one who has the opportunity to submit himself as a top 5 pick, I think that's the quarterback of the Penn State Nittany Lions. I know he said he's going back to school and he's going to play another year, but I mean, if you go to a national championship, potentially win a national championship, there's really nothing less for you to prove, especially when you could potentially be the first quarterback off the board. So I think that's the one that I have more interest in. I think Quinn should come out no matter what, even with a bad game. I think we see it all the time. You go to the combine, Quinn has the arm. He is and I don't want to compare him to him, but he is the Zach Wilson guy. He's going to look great with the pads off. He's going to make every single throw on the field. I think he could be a talented quarterback in the NFL. Like, again, I don't want to compare him to Zach Wilson, but I think that kind of stuff will rise, make Quinn Ewers' draft stock rise, and he'll be perfectly fine.
You'll laugh at me. You know what I see in Quinn Ewers? And by the way, it could be a gift and a curse for what I'm about to say, but do you know who he reminds me of? Like the way he throws the football, he reminds me a lot of Carson Wentz.
I knew you were about to say that.
He does. He reminds me of that style of quarterback, a guy that takes sometimes unnecessary risks, turns the football over, but has those wow moments. And I think with the right coaching staff, you could see an NFL quarterback. I think with the wrong coaching staff, you go throw him in New York, he's going to be a 2-year bust. He's going to be gone. Just telling you how it is, in my opinion.
I mean, it's not a terrible. I don't think he's as athletic as Carson is, but in regards to throwing the ball and stuff like that and mentality, I get it.
Guys, it's going to be a fun college football playoff weekend. We'll be on here next week breaking down what our thoughts are on that game and previewing the national championship. I'm fired up. I could see a Penn State national championship. Is that possible? I've never, bro. You could have told me. I didn't believe you guys all year.
I told you in August that was going to be a possibility,
but I didn't believe it, and I still somewhat don't believe it. I don't believe in James Franklin, but Colt DeNicki has done a great job with this offense, and I got to give him credit for that. I just don't like the way our locks on to Tyler Warren constantly. Granted, he's their best receiver. I get it. It's just he seems to force the ball, and where a lot of his turnovers come are from him forcing the ball where it shouldn't be thrown.
Yeah, I mean, it's the safety valve. I mean, it's
for you,
where
Wayne.
It's where he feels comfortable throwing the ball. Again, I think that's going to be a big thing going forward. If they can beat Notre Dame and whoever they play, in Texas or Ohio State, they're going to take Tyler Warren away to some degree. So he's got to get comfortable throwing the ball to other people. I'd love to see him throw the ball to the running backs out of the backfield as well.
Yeah,
run the screen game more.
Singleton would be very good to throw the ball to out of the backfield. I think the K train he needs to have 20 plus carries. The K train was running all over Boise State. Singleton was bottled up. What'd you say about K train?
It's not going to happen. He's not getting 20 carries.
I get it. But he had 18 last game, and he had 140 yards. And you take away that Nick Singleton big run at the end. That's what he is. He's that home run threat. That's what he is. But Nick Singleton was running the ball at like 2 yards per carry before that 50-yard touchdown run. And granted, that's what he's for. That's why I love him. But the K train's the guy you got to feed all day. Just running people over. Runs hard.
Out of curiosity, Gene, you taking their running back duo over Ohio State's running back duo?
No.
All right.
Listen, I'm not crazy.
I think the argument could be made.
It's absolutely close.
I don't think Penn State can beat Ohio State. So part of the reason that I've completely sold myself on Texas, I'm just saying, when someone has your number every time you play them, like, has James Franklin ever beaten Ryan Day? I don't know.
Once.
I don't think so. Once? Yeah, cool. I think they're 1-5. He's 1-5 versus Ryan Day.
It's like 1-7, 1-8, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's my point. When someone has your number, I feel a lot better with Franklin going up against Sarkisian. I just do. I feel a lot better with Penn State going up against Texas. I think that's a more winnable football game.
I get it.
But I'm just telling the truth. Sorry to Penn State guys listening to me at home. I apologize. When someone's beaten you so badly, so many times in so many different ways, I don't know. I'm not thrilled about going up against Ohio State.
Eventually, you got to beat them. Turn the tide and go the other way.
No better time than Natty, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Now I want to preview the NFL wildcard games after trivia. I want to take the first part of our NFL spot and talk about. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to get into, but let's talk about the coaching carousel first. Let's talk about what's happened so far in the coaching carousel. Cottrell, where do you want to start? I know this is one of your hot button topics. I would love to get into the coaching carousel.
Yeah, so I mean, I got a list of like who I think is going to replace or who's going to be the new head coach of like all the spots and things like that. But I mean, most recently, well, we had Gerard Mayo get fired. You had Doug Peterson get fired out of Jacksonville. Eberflus is already gone with the Raiders. Antonio Pierce got fired this week, and then the other two, the Saints and the Jets, were fired during the season. So nothing to really talk about there. I mean, I think, you talked about it during the intro. You talk about coaches just getting fired. I mean, you sent them up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. You got Gerard Mayo, who basically said, coming into the year that Drake May was going to sit for, half the season, maybe the full season, to ultimately see and wait for him to be ready to get out there and go on the field. And you saw week in and week out, once Drake became their starter, he got better and better every week. So I thought that was a positive for them. And then you look at it, the situation with the Raiders with Antonio Pierce, you were literally the last ones. You were stuck at the dance without a partner. You didn't have a quarterback because there were 6 quarterbacks that got taken in last year's draft before your pick. And ultimately you said, we're going to roll with Garrett Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as your two quarterbacks, both of which have had bad injuries this year and missed time throughout the year. So I don't know what you expected Antonio Pierce to do there, especially when you trade away the two best weapons trade away the best weapon in Devontae Adams on offense, and then you lose Josh Jacobs in free agency. So that was just a puzzling move to me. Like, I don't know what the expectations were for either of these guys that year, especially when I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, the Titans were in a very similar boat. And last year they had more wins. And now this year they have the number 1 overall pick with a first-year head coach. And they went and fired their GM, but their head coach is still there. So it's just very dumb and puzzling to me that we repeatedly find ourselves in these situations. Just doesn't – I don't know what the expectations are for horrible teams without a quarterback. Like, I think for with that said, too, just last thing I'll say. With that said, I think Tennessee did the right thing by keeping Callahan this year because he didn't have a quarterback all year. I think you give him the opportunity to draft a quarterback and figure it out. Like, I don't think Tennessee had a lack of talent. They shouldn't have won only 3 games this year. There was talent on the roster. But
the comment that Billy put up is what just drives me nuts. And it happens constantly. And that's the part that I kind of wanted to get into with that. And he says black head coaches don't get real chances to build a team and establish themselves. And I agree with that. I agree with his sentiment. I agree with his comment. And, one of the things that I wanted to bring up during this coaching carousel, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Control, I really don't. But one of the things I wanted to bring up during this coaching carousel is not just the lack of coaches that were fired, but the coaches that were retained, the people that were retained. Guys, don't take this the wrong way. What has Mike McDaniel done to keep his job?
Nothing different than Brian Flores. He made the playoffs one time.
I'm going to take it one step forward. Tyreek Hill, after the game, now granted, we're going to talk about him in a minute, but Tyreek Hill after the game says, I'm out. Jalen Ramsey posted, I'm out. The culture on the team's gotten worse. The team's gotten worse. Mike McDaniel kept his job. Brian Flores got fired after a 9-8 season and a 10-7 season the year prior. I'll take it another step forward, and we bring this up all the time. Brandon Staley got 4 years in Los Angeles. 4 years. Anthony Lynn was fired after 1. With the quarterback that won offensive rookie of the year. What did you expect him to do? We look at this all the time across the NFL. Antonio Pierce, given a no-win situation, fired. What different did Gerard Mayo do than what Bill Belichick did the year prior with a worse roster? Oh, wait, they had the same record. Guys, I don't mean to just be that guy. And also, I need to understand who Trent Baalke has information on. Because this man is the reason that Jim Harbaugh left San Francisco. They kept Baalke over Harbaugh. And now he's in Jacksonville, hired Urban Meyer, kept his job, fired Urban Meyer, hired Doug Peterson, kept his job. Guys, look around at the Jaguars roster. Is that a top 20 roster in the NFL?
Not even just that.
No.
Not even just that. But their owner came out and said that whoever they hire as a head coach will not be reporting to the GM. So, like, at that point, what are you there for?
It's one of the most awkward interviews I've ever seen.
Like,
Trent Baalke was at least sitting there, and he's like, they asked him towards the end of it too, like, are you like definitely like, committed to him? And he's like, well, if something else came across that I think might be better, then no. And Trent Baalke just sitting there like via Zoom, just being like, okay, whatever. Like it was terrible, but
and then you got Todd Mara going on interviews talking about, well, Dable and Joe Shane better get it together next year. It's playoffs or bust. What are you talking about? Joe Shane has made some of the worst moves as a GM ever. Let me ask you guys a question real quick. Can we consider Evan Neal a bust? He's been awful.
Yeah. Evan
Neal has been terrible. Let's take it a step further. Who's one of the best safeties in the league that used to be a Giant last year? Oh, yeah, Xavier McKinney. He's on Green Bay in the playoffs with 8 interceptions. Who's one of the best running backs in football? Oh, yeah, Saquon Barkley. He's on Philadelphia in the playoffs with 2,000 yards. Oh, and where's that $40 million quarterback that you just paid? Oh,
in the playoffs, Minnesota.
In the playoffs, Minnesota. Got it. I'm just perplexed. I'm lost as to how Joe Shane still has a job. Brian Daboll thing is fine. Listen, I'm not going to be that guy, right? I think Brian Daboll is a good coach. I think he was handed a rough deck of cards. But these guys are given extra opportunity after extra opportunity after extra opportunity. What Gerard Mayo is given one season with not a top 10, with a bottom 10 offensive line, a bottom 10 receiving core, a rookie running back, a bottom 10 running back. What are we talking about? It's not real. But we'll get into who we think is going to go there. But Eberflus is another one. You drafted another quarterback in a lame duck year of a head coach. Chicago, we could sit here, control. You know what we're going to do? We're going to project where people are going to go. You know what I'll project? Chicago's going to make another stupid mistake. Because I can't project a good coach to go there because they've shown you they asked to interview Mike McCarthy. They asked to interview Mike McCarthy.
I think more surprising to that was Dallas said no.
I can't. They're not. Ryan Poles isn't writing off trading for a coach. Yeah, trade more capital. Morons, man. Sorry, Katra. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll stop.
No, Bill, go ahead.
No, I mean, listen. I mean, unfortunately, this has been. We've literally had this conversation. We've had this conversation since we started the show. And I don't think you can objectively look at it and say it's gotten really. It hasn't got enough better in the last 3 years, obviously, for us to stop talking about it. We've I've been on record saying they have to change the rule and change the protocol. There's too many guys that are coming in and you can just tell they have no shot at getting the job and they're doing it just to put a check mark next to a box. There has to be an independent element to this whole situation that is not attached to the team and not attached to the NFL. And again, if it's consulting firms, if it's stuff like that, it's not like the NFL and these teams can't pay for it. And I think they have to sit in on all interviews. I think they have to sit in on all interviews and be like, all right, like they at least gave that guy a legit shot. They asked him the same questions they asked everybody else. You know, they have to take this a step further. It's because right now it's almost like, oh, we just take your word for it. Like, oh, you interviewed a couple black guys. Okay, cool. All right, go hire who you want. That's literally what it is right now. It's not more involved than that. People think it's crazy, but I'm telling you, it's not. There's no checking. There's no like, oh, like, you know, what did you think about so and so? Like, none of that happens. The NFL teams fill out a form saying who they interviewed, and it satisfies the running rule, and they move on and they hire the next white guy they want to hire. That's literally what they're doing. It's that simple, and it's that blatant, and it's that bad.
But my thing is, it's not even just like, I'm not even just saying like hire more black coaches. I'm saying give them something. But I mean, like, even like last year, Antonio Pierce got hired, Mayo got hired. Like I feel like there was another one first year guy in the league. I think last year though, they had the most black head coaches like in the NFL that they've had like in either ever or like in a long time. So like, yeah. I think they've gotten better with that. But like now, Antonio Pierce isn't going to get a job within the next 4 or 5 years. Raheem Morris was the other one that got hired last year. But Antonio Pierce isn't going to get hired for another head coaching job in the next 5 years. Gerard Mayo is not going to get hired for another head coaching job in the next 5 years. But we're going to see the same coaches that have gotten fired. Like we're going to see, and again, it's not to say that they're not qualified, but we're going to see Doug Peterson probably, if he wants another head coaching job in the next 5 years, he's going to be a name that comes up in the cycle. He's won a Super Bowl, so you know he's different. But you're going to also see Robert Saleh shouldn't have got fired, and he's obviously in the minority side of things, but he's going to get another opportunity there. But it's just tough when you see people that clearly don't like Joe. Joe Shane in New York, like there's nothing you could sell me that he's keeping his job and the GM in Tennessee's not keeping his. Like I don't understand how these two things happen here.
Yeah, no.
As bad as Mayo is and as bad as Pierce is, the Joe Shane thing is reprehensible to me. I really don't know how you go on national TV and say we're not paying the best running back in football because we're paying the quarterback $40 million not to turn around and hand off the ball, and neither one of them on the team now. It's and again, dude, the Mara family is like ridiculously successful. Like there's smart people in that family. Like I don't know how like these guys are evaluating, and I think that I think that's the problem. Like I don't know how you could sit in a room. I don't know how you could line up 6 possible GMs and then Joe Shane and interview them all again and be like, you know what, I'm staying with this guy. Like what is he saying? What vision does he have for your team after he's literally imploded it and got rid of everybody that was decent and they're all succeeding on other teams? They're all in the playoffs. And you're looking at that guy and be like, you know what? I definitely want him to lead the rebuild of this team. Like what are we doing?
Factual, Bill. Factual. You've never spoken such facts before in your life. That was so spot on.
And if I'm Brian Dable, I would be like, yo, it's got it.
Facts. If I'm Brian
it's either
Dable,
him or me.
Facts.
It's either
if
him
I'm
or
Brian
me.
Dable, because Brian Dable, again, I agree with you. I think Brian Dable's a good. Brian Dable will get another opportunity somewhere.
He took Daniel Jones to the playoffs.
Yeah,
he has to be a good coach.
Yeah, be like, I do not want to be attached to this guy. Like, give me somebody else who knows what the hell they're doing. Like, it's fucking nuts.
And like Trent Baalke's another one, man. Trent Baalke doesn't deserve to keep his job in Jacksonville. That's just asinine to me.
I don't think he deserves to keep his job, but I will say I think his probably his saving grace is I don't want to say he's drafted well, but he wasn't Joe. I'll say that. Yeah. Like Trayvon Walker has quietly been he hasn't been Aiden, of course, but Trayvon Walker has quietly been a good piece. I mean, with number one, you want a superstar. He hasn't been a superstar, but he's been a good quality piece for them. And I'm just trying to go back and think of like
the thing, though, Control, you're saying that, right? And I'm going to be objective for a minute, right? You know how big of a Trevor Lawrence fan I am. Trevor Lawrence picked first overall has not lived up to the hype so far in his career. Trevon Walker taken first overall, the second guy taken overall, has been a better player and played the same position. Travis Etienne was taken in the first round of the draft, and he's no longer starting running back. They basically benched him for Tank Bigsby. Guys, I don't mean it. Brian Thomas has been a good pick. That's been a good pick for them. He looks like the best receiver in this class. I mean, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison are better receivers, but Brian Thomas Jr. has looked great. But when you go through that Jacksonville Jaguars roster, I don't see a lot of great picks mapping out. I don't. And the same thing goes with the New York Giants. We talked about Joe Shane, but like Kayvon Thibodeau has been decent in the NFL, but they went out and paid Brian Burns for a reason because Thibodeau's not that game wrecker that he was at Oregon. He's just not. He's been good, but top 10 good? Probably not. Evan Neal stinks. He got benched. Your first round pick, left tackle, benched. You let go Saquon Barkley. You let go Xavier McKinney. They're all pro players, not pro bowlers, all pro players.
I just think with Jacksonville, like they were, and again, you can't just live off of the past, but 2 years ago, they were the roster was good enough to be in the playoffs. So I think not much has changed on the roster. I mean, you've lost some pieces like Calvin Ridley's not on the team, but he wasn't even playing the year that they went to the playoffs because he was suspended for gambling. So, like, I mean, I just think
that was a first.
I can understand that one more.
They traded. I'm almost sure they traded a first round draft pick for Calvin Ridley, who's not on the roster anymore. Guys, let's talk about just somewhat fun predictions on where some of these coaches will go. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. do you want me to tell you who I think should go there, who would be a good fit? Or do you want me to tell you who I think they'll screw it up with? Because I'll give you both if you want. Because you could start with Chicago.
I kind of did both, but
you could start with Chicago because they should roll out the Brinks truck and give Ben Johnson everything you can give him in the whole world. They won't. They'll screw it up and hire another stupid. Bro, I would not be surprised if they went out and got Cliff Kingsbury to be their next head coach. I wouldn't. He's already being talked about for the Raiders head coach.
I just feel like that's not as big a scope as it could be.
I was going to say, I think, you talk about marrying the coach to the quarterback. I mean, I think that's probably as close as what you're going to do. I mean, I think Ben Johnson is the no doubt about it guy.
Ben Johnson's going to be the one everybody wants. He's going to get to pick where he wants to go. I'll be honest. I don't know if he goes to Chicago. I think obviously for him, the Caleb thing is very enticing. But on the other hand, you know what kind of leadership and ownership you're dealing with. Yep. I don't know if I want my first crack at being an NFL coach is dealing with those people.
But to that same token, though, Ryan Poles has shown you that he'll go acquire talent. Like the Bears they don't lack talent. Like they will go get pieces for you. So like if I'm a coach, like that's what I would want. They tried to give Caleb Williams, they tried to give him weapons. They went out and signed Swift. They brought in Keenan Allen. They took Odunze in the first round. Like, and I'm not even saying that all these things were the right thing to do, but they thought they were doing what they could to get their rookie quarterback to be successful in their, coaches lame duck year. Essentially, we knew Eberflus was going to get fired. I know there was a little doubt there after Hard Knocks, but deep down we knew what was going to happen.
But Control, here's the problem, right? You're going to get another coach in there, and what if you give Ben Johnson all this money and he goes in there and tells you Caleb's not the guy, and you have him work with him for 2-3 years, and then they end up drafting another quarterback? And then they fire Ben Johnson. It's just a ridiculous trend. You have to clean house. It has to happen. And by the way, there's other guys that are quarterback whisperers in this class. Guys that can really – I'll give you one, right? So let's start with Chicago, but I want to go to Jacksonville next because I'm telling you where I think it goes down to Jacksonville. And I think it's the move if Jacksonville makes it. But let's go Chicago first because we brought them up. Who they should hire is Ben Johnson. Who they will hire is Aaron Glenn.
I don't think they hire Aaron Glenn.
God, bro, I'm just picking the worst candidate I can find for that situation. That's what I'm going to go with. Because Chicago stinks at hiring coaches. Didn't they just request to interview the Giants offensive coordinator?
That they did.
Are we serious right now? Did you watch the Giants offense here?
I would be shocked if Chicago doesn't hire an offensive guy.
I said Ben Johnson as like my ideal because how I went through, I kind of did it a mix of both, who I think should or who I think will go. I said Ben Johnson, but I put a little slash next to it. And the other name that I have here is John Gruden.
Oh. Pete Carroll is the one you should look out for in Chicago.
His name popped up a lot today.
Pete Carroll is
a different coaching stop for me.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go to Jacksonville next because I have the perfect candidate for them, and they're going to make the right move. That's what they're going to do. They're going to make the right move this offseason. I doubt it. The perfect candidate for them is a guy that has a history of fixing a quarterback, that has turnover issues, that is big, strong, and athletic. I don't know. Joe Brady sounds perfect. Give me Joe Brady as the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Again, another name that I have elsewhere, but I mean, since we're here, I'll go Pete Carroll. I think this is the Pete Carroll landing spot. I think the Cons are so focused on winning. They're like, well, Pete's won everywhere he's been. So let's bring in the experienced guy and see if we can get some winning done in Jacksonville.
See, I think the Cons are going to want to make a splash here. And that's why I think John Gruden ends up in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence.
See it? That's what Billy says.
I thought I was going to be the only one with John Gruden on the list today.
I do not have John Gruden on the list. Can we move over to the New England Patriots? I think we should sweep this one. It's very obvious what they did. This is Mike Rabel's job. Mike Rabel wants the job, and that's where he's going to end up.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right. Easy. No doubt about it.
This should be the first one that's done.
100%. I want to move over to the New York Jets. And I actually 100% believe that the New York Jets go back and rehire an ex-coach from the past, Rex Ryan. I believe it. I strongly believe it. He's got a good relationship with the owner, Woody Johnson. I truly believe that the Jets go out there and they fix their culture by hiring Rex Ryan.
I also have Rex Ryan here for the Jets spot. I don't like how much we're agreeing here, but I don't think you interview him if you aren't seriously considering him. Like that's my thinking behind it.
And that's kind of what sold it for me. I don't think you go through the whole dog and pony show if you have that great relationship with him. I don't think you if you're that good of friends with him, you're not using Rex Ryan as leverage for somebody else. So if you're going through the whole thing with him, then I agree, and I think it's clear that New York needs a culture issue.
I love what he said in the media too.
We're going to
end Rogers Resort.
Yep, Country Club. Yep, it's I think if Rex Ryan's hired, I don't think there's any shot Aaron Rodgers is there next year.
Oh no, definitely. Well, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, Garrett Wilson's going to demand a trade, and you're going to make that decision right then and there.
Problem with that is, I mean, you have to go get a quarterback because you're going to lose Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, so you are kind of again starting behind the 8 ball there.
Well, the Jets stink, and they have a top 10 pick, so
I get it. I just don't know if Rex Ryan's necessarily the guy again. If we're marrying GM and quarterback,
absolutely right.
I don't know if that's the guy I want drafting my quarterback of the future for my franchise.
It's really funny, but a reunion of Sam Darnold in New York with Rex Ryan could actually make the most logical sense.
I don't think Sam Darnold's leaving Minnesota.
I guess we'll find that out.
Not next year anyway.
And am I missing one? Is it just the Vegas Raiders? Am I missing another one?
And the Saints.
Oh, yeah. I got it. I got the Saints. My bad. I forgot. Let's start with the Vegas Raiders, and I'm going to tell you exactly where they're going to go. I know exactly where they're going.
Me too.
And it's
I'm saying it first. No, I'm saying it first. Cliff Kingsbury is going to be the Vegas Raiders head coach. I know we've been agreeing on too many of these coaches. I knew you were going to be on the same side there. I had to get it out. Cliff Kingsbury is going to be the guy in Vegas. They get the drafted quarterback, and he's the name, the offensive guru guy. That's going to be the next coach in Vegas.
And that's another one of those things that's a retread guy that failed in Arizona that you're going to give another opportunity. It's so embarrassing.
He's just a prototypical tweener, I think. I think he's an elite coordinator, and he's just not quite good enough to be a head coach. And he's just the in-between guy.
I think Vegas hires him too, by the way. I completely agree with you, Control.
I think it's wild that none of us, and I know we got another team to go to. It's wild that, granted, I'm sure you guys want to keep Kellen Moore there, but I mean, how do you not have a guy who had so much success in this Eagles offense? Granted, I mean, talent's great. You get Saquon Barkley, like you should be successful there, but a guy who, I feel like we've talked about approaching this carousel. Like, I don't know how his name, I haven't seen his name really brought up at all, just in general.
Super happy about that.
I think Kellen Moore is here. Listen, I think Kellen Moore's to some, I think he's probably number 2 on a lot of people's list behind Johnson. I think he kind of gets to call a shot here if he wants to. But again, if I'm Kellen Moore with the situation I'm in, knowing worst case scenario, I'm coming back and coaching all those weapons again next year in Philadelphia, I'm not taking a lot of these jobs.
Well, he's interviewing for Jacksonville. He's interviewing for Jacksonville tomorrow. My point is, if I can't get Caleb in Chicago or Trevor in Jacksonville, I'm passing this cycle. It's just me. If I'm him, who do you got going to Vegas?
It's funny. I literally have Cliff, and I just want to go somewhere else. I mean, the rumors are out there that Tom made the phone call today to Bill. That's going to be very interesting. If anything punts or anything, kind of spins the wheels there. I don't know. See, a lot of people said Robert Saleh too, and I just don't. I feel like you're bringing in almost the same guy you just fired. I don't like that either. It's probably going to be Cliff. I think because Cliff is again, he's kind of one of the shinier toys in the box that you're going to, probably get a lot of people excited about. I don't know why, because you're going to bring him in and he has no quarterback. I think there's a lot of people out there that think there's a chance Dion goes there. I don't see that either, but he's already kind of said he's going to, direct where Shador ends up. So I guess there's a possibility of that happening as well.
Let's go to New Orleans Saints. Cottrell, I think we're going to be on the same page again.
We will not.
Okay. Charlie, would you like to start in New Orleans?
Okay, I don't care. I actually think New Orleans is a perfect landing spot for Robert Saleh.
Well, I think that you're on the right track as far as defensive minded. I think this is the perfect landing spot for Brian Flores. And I think Brian Flores gets his second go around in the NFL and an organization that will give him time to develop. And I think it's New Orleans. I like Brian Flores to New Orleans.
Brian Flores would make a ton of sense because the Benson family, they would give him a fair shake there, just how they are. But for me, I think this is the match. Joe Brady to New Orleans makes all the sense in the world. You already saw what he could do when he was down there as the OC at LSU. I mean, like, he's already familiar with the area. Like, it's a perfect fit. You bring in the offensive guy. The offense was rolling at the beginning of the season, and I use that term loosely because it was only like 3 or 4 games. But your offense was rolling. Then you figure you bring a quarterback in. You have talent. I mean, Alvin Kamara is not going anywhere, I'd imagine, unless he doesn't want to sit around for a rebuild. Chris Olave, when he doesn't have concussions, is a really good piece for you. So, I mean, I think the players are there. You just need to get a quarterback to figure things out and then ultimately get out of cap hell, which is going to take some time. But I think Joe Brady is the perfect fit for the Saints.
John Suggs says the Saints are getting the Tampa defensive coordinator. He's my cousin. He already got it wrapped up, $6.2 million. John Suggs, breaking news here on Wire2Wire Sports Podcast.
Is that real?
No. I love that you believe that. Trivia time.
People know people, bro.
Trivia
People
time,
know
and then
people.
we'll break into the NFL playoff games. So let me get the trivia ticker up.
All right, gents.
I'll turn the just put this right here.
I got a weird one for you. The question's not weird, but the amount of people is. So we're gonna go. This is a race to 6.
Okay.
There's 16 guys here. This is a race to 6.
Jesus.
Comments are off. Go ahead. Got it.
Because the question today is brought to you from the NFL, and it is the most all pros of active players, and this includes first and second team.
Wait, what?
Most all pro selections, first and second team combined, of active NFL players.
I don't think. Okay, active. Got it. I get it.
Active, and because someone's gonna go here. If you're on the practice squad, doesn't count. Jason Peters, I'll say his name out now because he's not counted here. Jason Peters on a practice squad for Seattle all year. Didn't play it down. He is not considered on this list. Even if you haven't retired, if you didn't play a snap of football in 2024, you are not on this list.
I'll take the low-hanging fruit. I get to go first, right?
So they have to be on. All right. So they have to be on. They have to currently be on a roster.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I take the low-hanging fruit first? I get to go first, right?
Yeah.
Low-hanging fruit's Justin Tucker.
Justin Tucker is number 3 at 8.
I got one more guarantee, and then I'm going to have to really dig.
And
I mean a guarantee. Like, no doubt about a guarantee.
I will go. Just Tucker's a good one. I will go with. I hate to use this. I'll go with Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys that is tied for that number 8 spot with 5.
Okay. The other one that's guaranteed is Bobby Wagner.
Bobby Wagner is number 1 on the list with 9.
Didn't know it would be number 1, but knew it was a guarantee.
Tied for 1. There's another guy that has 9 as well, but yes.
I will go. I will go with. I'll go with TJ Watt.
TJ Watt is not on this list.
Can you give me Big Daddy Trent? Trent Williams.
Trent Williams is not on this list. Let me
Really?
double check that because I feel like Trent should be here. But no, Trent is not on this list.
I thought Trent Williams would be a no doubt about it. I was chomping at the bit. Shout out to my man Kyle Edwards. I was chomping at the bit for that one. I thought Big Daddy Trent would be the move.
No, he's only got 4.
4 is what? Like, what's the
5 is the cutoff.
That makes sense. Big Daddy Trent.
5's the cutoff?
Yes.
How many he has? I'll go with Kelsey.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's boyfriend should be on there.
Travis Kelce is tied for number 4 with 7.
That's a really good one. How about Checker Fred? Fred Warner is what I'm saying. If you don't know what I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about. I just want to get you to clarify. Fred Warner is not on the list.
God damn it. The 2-2 right now?
It is indeed 2-2.
I thought that was enough.
You got some. There are a couple ones that I was like, really? On the list.
I'll go with Zach Martin.
Zach Martin is the other guy that was tied for number 1 with 9.
That's a really good one. What about Jalen Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey is not on the list.
Jesus Christ.
There's got to be some more linemen on this list.
Three-two shower.
Okay, let's get it going here, Bill.
What about Jason Kelsey?
What? It's not active.
Jason Kelsey is not active, so that is incorrect.
All right, let me. Can you give me your guy? Is your guy on the list? Cleveland Brown.
Who?
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett is among that bunch that is tied for 5.
Tied it up, baby. Let's go. 3-3. We're in it. We're in this. We're here. I don't know, dude. Oh, I got another one, I think.
Race to 6.
I'm going to rattle off 3. I guarantee one of them's on there.
I know some of these are just going to be weird. Like, there's probably special team people in there. There's probably.
Well, yeah, I got the kicker.
Who do we have so far?
You have Bobby Wagner with 9, Zach Martin with 9, Justin Tucker with 8, Travis Kelce with 7, Aaron Rodgers with 5, and Myles Garrett with 5.
I will go Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill is another guy that's tied with 5.
I'll match his wide receiver with another wide receiver. Give me Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is not on this list.
Tyreek Hill is one of my 3 guesses at wide receiver. Devontae Adams is the second. I have a third.
I can't. I don't.
You're tied. No, we're not tied. It's 4-3.
He's up 4-3. I wouldn't have thought Cheetah. Cheetah was my third of the three that I have in my head. But whatever, we'll see. I'm shocked Checker Fred wasn't on here.
What about? Oh, man, I don't think he's active. I think he finally retired. What about Lane Johnson?
It's a good one.
Lane Johnson is not on the list.
Give me Nuke.
DeAndre Hopkins is on the list. He's tied for 5.
We're back in this. That's 4-4. We're back. We're back.
I'm trying to just think like playoff teams that are like.
I got another guess. All my players are old. I have no.
I mean, 5. I mean, if you get all pro that many times, I mean, they're probably old.
Yeah.
No, he's got to be on. Oh, maybe not. What, the cutoff's 5?
5 is the cutoff.
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones is on the list. He has tied for 5.
See, I don't think. See, like my next guy. It's funny because like I think one of the guys that would be up here, and I thought about him. I think he's retired, so I can't use him. I think another guy just. Does it count this year's?
No, they haven't made selections yet this year.
I didn't know. I'm just asking. So like, but they have to be active in 2024, right?
Correct. Play the snap.
Okay. Give me Return of the Mac. Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack is not on this list.
Wow.
I figured he'd get a few on the Raiders, a few, maybe 1 or 2 on the Chargers, 1 or 2 on the oh God, I shouldn't have just said what I just said. Fucking idiot. Why do I do this every time we have trivia?
Oh, I'm sorry. He is on my list. He's on my list. Khalil Mack is here. He's got 5.
Let's go.
He was under my head coaching. I don't know how he got put there, but Khalil Mack is here.
I'll take a 5-4 lead then, right?
No.
What do you mean?
It is.
It's 4-4.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, it's 5-5.
Okay. Who was his last guess?
Chris Jones.
Oh, he was on the list. Okay, you're
Yes.
right. 5-5. You're right. I went first too. So if he gets 6, he wins. If he gets 6 here, he wins. I can't rebuttal because I went first.
Well, if he gets 6, I would. Yeah, you went first. So yeah, no, there'd be no rebuttal.
There you go. It's for the win, brother. Got to get it too because I got 2 in the chamber. They might not be right though.
I'm going back to Cowboy Land here.
Okay.
Played with Zach for a while. I'm going with Tyron Smith.
Tyron Smith is tied for 5 for the win.
That's good shit. My next guess would have been Derwin James, which is why I laughed at myself when I said the Chargers.
How old is he? I think he's not old enough. I mean, maybe. I feel like he lost a couple seasons to injury too.
Yeah, Derwin James isn't on this list. He's only got 3.
Actually, I mean, 3's not bad for as much as he's missed.
Oh no, it's not bad at all. But some of the key names that you missed on the list: Von Miller is tied
good one.
Tied up there. He has 7. Johnny Hecker, punter, he has 6.
I wouldn't have thought about that
ever. I was shocked. When you said low hanging fruit, he said Justin Tucker. That's not where I thought you were going with him.
Cordero Patterson has 6.
We do turn off the comments, by the way. I'm just
CJ Mosley has 5.
Wow.
Demario Davis has 5.
Wouldn't have got that.
And
Joey Bosa?
and Joel
guess one of the
Batonio has
active
5.
players, most all-pro selections. I see all the comments. I'm checking it out now. Brandon Graham, I don't think he's got any.
No.
Might have one. Yeah.
Is Julio still active or did he retire?
No, he's not active. He's retired. I'm almost sure of that.
He didn't play this year, so he fell under that same category. I don't think he officially retired, but
yeah, guys, sorry, we turned the comments off during trivia, so I didn't see any of this. Trent Williams was like my first guess or my second guess. Von Miller's a great one, Tommy. Wish I would have seen that.
Von Miller's a good one.
And Alex is right. We should put the trivia question on the banner. That makes sense. Can you I can do that next week for the trivia question. This way everybody sees what it is.
That works.
All right, guys. Good trivia. Congratulations, William. I felt like I gave a lot of good answers, but apparently
you did
not good enough.
A lot of them had 4.
Was Minka Fitzpatrick close? That was the other one that was too young. And the one I thought was retired was Patrick Peterson. I'm pretty sure he's retired.
Yep, Pat P's done. Let's see.
We played last year. I don't know.
Minka went through my head. That's a good one.
Minka 3-time.
Okay. Yeah, so like in my head, I had a couple players lined up, but they all would have been L's anyway. So
is it Dominic Sue on there, or did he retire? I know
he retired, but he would have been there. He had 5.
Well, great stuff, gentlemen. Great stuff. Let's get into the NFL playoff matchups. I'm fired up for this.
5 straight days of football. Playoff football, actually.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday's, dude, can you imagine being – I'm sorry. Sam Darnold picked the worst game to have his worst game of it as a Viking this past week. The lights were too bright. He threw the ball terribly. But the Minnesota Vikings have to be crying to someone, dude, because you lose the game for the number 1 seed.
Now you got to go on the road.
On Monday night versus a team that rested. That's a tough ask. The Rams, let's go in order. Let's go Saturday. Chargers, Texans. They start us off. They're the early game on Saturday. Am I correct? Chargers, Texans, early game?
Yep, they're 4 o'clock.
Oh, I didn't. Okay. So Saturday afternoon, Chargers at Texans. The Chargers are a 3-point favorite in this game. I don't mind, guys. Like, we can keep a playoff bracket of what we want to do as far as winners and losers instead of just picking against the spread. We just pick winners and losers, see how we do. But the pick 'em for the NFL season looks like it's over. It looks like we all finished above 500 on the season. Do you have that, Cottrell? We all finished above 500. 31-23 is not shabby, but 32-19 is absolutely absurd. If you had 50 games picked, to pick 32 winners out of 50 games, you have 49 or you have 51. Sorry, 32 winners out of 51 games is absurd. That's great. You can get paid money for that. 31 winners out of 54 games is great. I finished barely above 500. I've had my rough weeks. I had my good weeks. But congratulations, Cottrell, on winning this year's NFL.
First time in 4 years.
I love it. Great work. I got 2. Shally's got 1. You got 1. Let's see who gets it next year. But great stuff. So
I started 1-8.
I know, and you came back to be 32-19.
Actually, 0-6. I didn't win my first game until the 3rd week.
31-23. It's a really good number. But
college, though.
Let's get into the playoff games and how you see them going and who do you got winning this game. Chargers at Texans. Cottrell, I want you to start here.
Yeah, so for me, I like the Chargers. I think the spread tells you everything you need to know about that game there. I think for me, the Texans offense has been they haven't looked anything like they looked last year. And then you factor in the injuries to Tank, of course, a couple weeks ago, and then Diggs obviously hasn't been there, all season after tearing his ACL. I think that the way that this Chargers team is playing right now, they're going to be able to run the ball effectively against the Texans, and they're also going to be able to, do really whatever they want to. Derek Stingley has been a great bright spot for that Texans defense, but I think schematically, with what the Chargers will want to do, run, play action, and just taking the intermediate shots that are there. I think they're going to be able to get full control of the game here. So I like the Chargers to win. Probably say a 7 to 10 point ball game.
Okay. Shally, I know you're going to be picking your boy Jim.
I am, but I'm going to pick them just because I think they're going to play a style of football that's going to be conducive to win a playoff game. And on top of that, really, I mean, as much as the Texans were kind of like my darlings last year, and I really liked it. I just feel like they've kind of plateaued or even kind of taken a step backwards. They've been very inconsistent. They have games where they look great and they throw 2 clunkers in a row. I just think Herbert's going to go out there and they're going to run the ball. He'll get completions from Johnson and Ladd when he has to, and that defense will play good run defense and kind of really, I think, make CJ force the ball to try to get it to Nico, obviously with Diggs and everybody else out hurt. So, I just think this game plays into the hands of what the Chargers want to do. So I'm going to go with the Chargers as well.
It's funny. I look at this game, and this is one of those games that I would stay far away from if you're betting it. I just don't like it. It doesn't feel right, and that's just how I feel, right? I'm going to kind of pull a Shally and play on both sides of the fence, and I'm going to give you just – no, I'm serious. And that's Shally's thing. Right?
I picked the Chargers.
In this one you did, but you're really a fence rider. You know you are. And that's okay. I like the Chargers to win the football game, but I don't think they'll cover. Give me the Chargers 17, the Texans 16 in an ugly battle, really close football game, field goals and field position and all that jazz. I think the NFL makes out on this one. I think Vegas makes out on this one where the Chargers win the game but don't cover the 3.
Fair enough.
Saturday night football. I'm almost sure. Let me just make sure I'm right here. Yeah, Saturday night football. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. This is a game in which Pittsburgh has been reeling. The spread opened up at 8.5. It's up to 9.5 for Baltimore. That's absolutely nuts. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. I'll go first on this one. There's a lot of teams that don't give Baltimore any trouble. Pittsburgh's not one of those teams. I think they're 9-3 versus Baltimore in their last 12. Pittsburgh as a whole plays very good defense against Lamar Jackson. Mike Tomlin's always been there. Russ has got playoff experience. Lamar has done nothing but come up small in playoff games. I think this game is going to be close. I think it's going to be a very close football game. I think the Ravens will end up winning it, and I think it'll be on the toe of Justin Tucker. Give me 23-20 Ravens on a walk-off field goal.
I'll go next here. I do agree with Gene. Gene has kind of a pulse on this rivalry, which is just random because it's, neither one of our teams. But always higher score when they play in Baltimore. Saturday night, obviously, it's going to be cold. But that being said, I do agree with Gene. I think Baltimore wins. I think 9.5 is nuts. I think 9.5 for the third time playing each other, bitter division rivals. I know Baltimore's looked great in spurts. I know Pittsburgh is reeling. I agree with Gene. Gut feeling here. It has the feel to me of a lower scoring game. I think Baltimore wins. I don't think they cover. I don't know if it's quite a walk-off field goal, but like 24-20, something like that. I think it's in there. I just don't think it's a big explosive game. I agree with Gene on this one.
So, Cottrell, before you go, I want to ask you a question. And I know you're a Lamar Jackson fan, but you shook my head. Well, you shook your head when I said Lamar Jackson has had playoff struggles.
No, that's not what you said. That wasn't what you said.
Okay, what did I say that you shook your head?
You said Russ has playoff experience and Lamar doesn't show up in playoff games. And he quite literally had a 4-touchdown game last year in his first playoff game in the divisional round against the Texans.
So he had one good playoff game in his 5 that he's played.
I'm not saying that. I mean, he's won more than one.
He's won 2. The other one versus Tennessee was an absolute disgusting performance on both teams.
which is fine. I just think that
Do you think Lamar
don't.
Jackson has played up to the standard in the playoffs?
No, not to the. I mean, he's a
Do
two-time
you think
MVP,
Lamar
so
Jackson
no.
would be answering questions by the media by saying, "I think I need to play like it's the regular season and not let the nerves get to me"? That's what he said in his presser this week.
Which is fine. Like
Okay, you
I
shook your head when I said that Lamar Jackson needs to not struggle in the playoffs.
Because I mean, would you say Joe Burrow struggles in the playoffs?
No, I would not.
All right. Well, you take a look at what he's done in the games against Kansas City, or just in general, his playoff numbers.
He won at Arrowhead.
Okay, wait. No. Let's not talk about. Let's not bring up wins and losses. If we're going to talk about, it was a shit show in Tennessee.
Just at Kansas City. That's what you're asking me? Just the games at Kansas City? Because he was incredible at Buffalo. He was incredible versus
Lamar.
the
Didn't Lamar lose last year against Kansas City? Like, wasn't that the Kansas City team that we're talking about right now?
Well, that's not the only team he's played in the playoffs.
But I'm talking about like lately. Like, what have you done for me lately? I'm talking literally last season.
2 3 and 5 playoff games. The 2 wins he's had were versus the Texans last year at home, and then the hapless Titans who snuck into the playoffs.
So now they're hapless. But we forget that Joe Burrow snuck a playoff win against a Raiders team that let go of that coach that same offseason. Like, let's not it's just funny how we nitpick certain things.
Did he not win at Buffalo?
He did, but
what's Lamar's signature performance?
So a signature performance is winning in the first or second round against Buffalo. I think 4 touchdowns against the offensive rookie of the year in the divisional round is a really good playoff performance. But that's just me.
How about winning at Arrowhead and getting his team in position for the game-winning field goal for Evan McPherson to kick?
You mean the game? You mean the game that he had 2 interceptions that they?
Yeah, that game. Correct.
Where he had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Struggle. Yes, that game.
I mean, if you think a 1 touchdown, 2 interception performance is nice and your team wins is a good performance, then
amazing how you're comparing a quarterback like Lamar Jackson.
I'm not comparing Joe to Lamar, but I'm just saying it's interesting how these narratives change when we look at certain numbers and we're talking about certain people. That's all. I'm asking you in your free time, go look at Joe Burrow's playoff stats. That's all I'm asking you.
Okay, I will. I'll do that in my free time. I'll look at the 40-some points he put up at Buffalo.
Cool.
Just checking.
So 4 touchdowns, 40 points of Buffalo, 4 touchdowns. I think they're both signature wins. I'm okay with saying that.
It's not a signature win, beating the Texans the year they weren't supposed
to. Beating Josh Allen, who has never beating Josh Allen, and you're talking about going
to Buffalo.
Buffalo has not gone to the Super Bowl. You're acting like Buffalo is this juggernaut. Buffalo is a team that every year makes the playoffs. Josh has these fun runs. He's in the MVP conversation. Then they lose in the playoffs. This is a rinse and repeat cycle. Buffalo is not this juggernaut that Joe Burrow going there and knocking them off is this some incredible feat. I'll give you beating Pat because it is important to beat the team that has 3 championships since Patrick Mahomes has been there. But beating Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, they're a good team. I'll give them all the credit in the world for that. But that's not some signature win like he just went and beat Mike Tyson in his prime.
So they won at Buffalo and they won at Kansas City. He went to the Super Bowl and then played another game versus Kansas City in which they lost by 4 points. Whereas Lamar Jackson had to win a road playoff game.
Again, you're talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about literally look at the numbers is what I'm saying. Like Joe Burrow is a fun guy.
Compare Lamar Jackson to Joe Burrow, and you think that
at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson has 2 MVPs and no Super Bowls, and Joe Burrow has no MVPs and no Super Bowls.
And Lamar's never been to a Super Bowl.
And Joe Burrow has been to 1. Congrats.
Better player.
I guess so.
He is.
As great as he is, he won 9 games this year and didn't make the playoffs. But again, we don't care because it's Joe Burrow.
Systems don't matter, brother. Systems don't matter. Doesn't matter.
Lamar Jackson is the system.
Lamar
Jackson is the system.
Gotcha. Who wins the game?
The Ravens. The Ravens win the game because the Steelers stink. It has nothing to do with what the Ravens have to do offensively. Russell Wilson is a can. We've been telling you guys that on this show for the last 8 weeks of the season. Justin Fields should have been their starter. It looked great when Russ came in off the bench and you let Russ cook for those first 3-4 games of that tenure. But I hate to tell you, Pittsburgh fans, but that run is absolutely over. George Pickens hates playing wide receiver now. He couldn't catch if you handed him the ball 2 yards in the backfield. You saw his game last week. And he's mad at Russ for not getting him the ball, or Russ going to the media saying it's a miscommunication. On defensive side of the ball, they're all banged up. TJ Watt's banged up. He's going to play, but he's not going to be close to what we normally see of a TJ Watt. And these guys just played a couple weeks ago in Baltimore. I get it. It's a playoff game. The things might change. Mike Tomlin's a great coach. This, that, everything. I think that the biggest difference for me is Pittsburgh's not going to be able to score points. This Baltimore defense has had their struggles throughout the year defensively. They made a move to Marlon Humphrey playing inside now, playing in the slot. And honestly, that's done numbers for them. Kyle Hamilton has been incredible. Roquan Smith has been incredible. They've been defensive line by committee, getting after the quarterback between Odafe Owe and Justin Matabuke. Like, all those guys get after the quarterback. And I think that's going to cause problems for Pittsburgh. So, and I didn't even get to the offense with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I just think Pittsburgh's offense as a whole has spelled doom and gloom for 8 weeks now. And I think people are finally starting to see that because the wins aren't stacking up in the column there.
I think it's going to be a very, very close football game. What's your score prediction?
I'll go 27-13.
Okay. Sunday afternoon, 1:00, you got the Denver Broncos traveling to the Buffalo Bills. And I once again, let me start this one for you, Cottrell. Maybe we'll see if your attitude changes. I think the Denver Broncos go into Buffalo and play the Buffalo Bills super tough. The Denver Broncos are one of those teams that can control your quarterback. If you don't remember, this Denver Broncos team just last year with Russell Wilson went into Buffalo on Monday Night Football and beat them. That was the Damar Hamlin 12th man on the field game. The Denver Broncos are very good at containing the quarterback. That is not what Josh Allen wants to see. Bo Nix has looked great. They looked awesome last week. I think Sean Payton will devise a game plan to get Denver up and down the field. I think Buffalo will struggle against the Denver Broncos defense. I just think they'll have just enough in the end to be able to win this football game by a field goal. I think this spread is nuts also. I think Josh Allen has struggled throughout the playoffs during his career also. I think Bo Nix and this Broncos team is great. I think they're good. I just don't think they're great enough yet. Give me the Buffalo Bills to win this one 27-24.
I'm actually pretty much spot on with you. This spread came out, and I was actually shocked it was that high. Just looked at the weather. It's actually for this time of year in Buffalo, it's going to be gorgeous. 32, almost no wind, no snow in the forecast whatsoever. I think the teams are just going to be able to go out there and play football. I agree with Gene. I think that defense of Denver is going to really limit what Buffalo can do. The whole up and down, Buffalo show that's been all year. I don't think it's going to happen Sunday. And again, I think Sean Payton will go up there with a very good game plan. Bo Nix will stay within it. He'll take his opportunities when he can. I'll go 27-23 Buffalo just to be different. But if I was picking a game this week, this is probably my most confident bet. Denver plus 8.5. I don't think Buffalo covers.
I love that.
I mean, sounds like Bo Nix has a chance to go get a signature win in Buffalo. For me, I'm rolling with Buffalo in this game. I mean, I think just offensively, they're going to be just a little too much for them. Josh Allen's been playing really good football throughout the year, and I think as good as Denver has been defensively, I do think with this being Bo's first playoff game, and he had a great second half of the year for sure, but you can tell he gets a little antsy back there. Like, he always wants to hit the home run, and I think that's going to get him in trouble in Buffalo. Buffalo's had I know they didn't have that many Pro Bowl players this year, but their defense has been incredible. Their defensive line has absolutely been phenomenal this year between Russo and Ed Oliver on that line, and Teron Johnson being one of the best slots in the game. I think Buffalo's defense is just going to be too much. They're confused. They're going to confuse Bo quite a bit back there. I think he turns the ball over a couple of times. I like Buffalo to win. I'd say probably like a 24-13 kind of ball game.
24-13. So you got them covered. So you're at least consistent there. You have both quarterbacks that struggle in the postseason covering the spread. I appreciate that. And by the way, I do want to bring up this point before we get into the Eagles. Lamar Jackson does not have one playoff game ever that's even close to the dramatics and the statistics that Josh Allen put up at Arrowhead. The only reason we don't talk about Josh Allen as significant in the playoffs is because the Buffalo defense allowed them to get in the field goal range with 13 seconds. That has nothing to do with Josh Allen.
I do not care. Wins and losses.
That's not how you the quarterback.
That is literally how you judge everything. Everything, everywhere, except players that you like. You talk about Josh Allen struggling in the playoffs. Why do we talk about that? Because he doesn't win. Because he doesn't win. I don't care how many yards he had against.
Game. He threw a touchdown.
He didn't. He didn't win the football game. He literally lost. He lost. Stop saying he won. He lost.
3 times he touched the football, he scored a touchdown.
Care.
That's
the
not
same
his
rules.
fault.
The same rules apply to the same other quarterbacks. Football is not a one moment game.
Correct. And it's not a one player game either.
You're right. It's not. But why do we talk about Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson being bad in the playoffs? Because they don't win. Because they don't win.
There's a difference between what Lamar Jackson did at home last year versus Kansas City when he dropped the ball versus what Josh Allen did, scoring touchdowns on 3 straight drives to end the game at Kansas City. There's a difference. And if you can't see that difference, I'll send glasses to you. For
what it's worth, you're talking about a Josh Allen performance from 3 years ago. Like, we haven't seen Josh Allen get to the Super Bowl 3 years later. We have. That's what we're hung up on. We're talking about Lamar Jackson who's in the playoffs every single year. We're talking about Joe Burrow, who has
one good football game,
2 playoff seasons. I get it. Lamar Jackson is not this. He has not been the same player in the regular season as he has been in the playoffs. Right. I'm okay with admitting that, because I think that's as clear as day. But at the same token, I'm looking at Joe Burrow's stats. Let's just go through them here, because I haven't pulled up here because I figured you weren't going to be off of that point. So you look at a game where he had 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. I'll get to Josh Allen next. Don't you worry. Since we got time, you want to go here, we can go here. 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a win against the Raiders in the playoffs, where I think we both can call that a yuck bowl. And then the Tennessee Titans, who apparently absolutely suck. He beat them in the playoffs as well that same season to ultimately
the Rabel Titans that had the top defense in football. Just to be clear,
did Mike Vrabel not coach it when Lamar was playing them?
He did, but that was the
okay then. All right then. Okay, hey.
They were the 1 seed that year.
So Mike Vrabel coaching. You want to bring up Mike Vrabel coaching them? They suck when Lamar beat them. Joe Burrow beats them. They were a good football team. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. But anyway, after that, he has the game against the Chiefs that year. 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. They go to the Super Bowl. In that Super Bowl, 263 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. For, again, just looking at this objectively, this Joe Burrow is not the same Joe Burrow that I see in the regular season.
Bro,
he's had no games
and huge wins that he won in the playoffs. Yeah, statistically in the playoffs, it's a different game. You're right. A lot of quarterbacks.
So what are we talking about with Lamar Jackson then? That's quite literally the point.
That's literally what he's saying.
That is the point.
Like you're I don't want to get involved in this because it's stupid. But like you're talking about Joe going to Kansas City and winning when he didn't have a good game statistically, but getting credit for the win. But not Cottrell talks about
1 interception, 263 yards on the road. That's a bad game.
It's not a bad game. Is that Joe Burrow? Is that 350 and 4 touchdowns?
His point is it can't be wins and losses matter when it's somebody. But then if it's somebody else and they still played well and had great stats, but they lost, there's still something else. That's all. That's his point.
Do you not think there's a difference between what
I'm not
last year? Hold on. No, I'm asking you. But I'm asking you a question. Do you not think there's a difference that what Lamar Jackson did last year at home versus Kansas City versus what Josh Allen did on the road at Kansas City? You don't think there's a difference in those games? They're both losses. Do you don't think there's a difference statistically?
I'll answer if you let me. I agree with you that it's definitely not as black and white to me as this player played great, they won, or if they lost, it's on them, blah, blah, blah. Like, I agree with you on that.
Correct.
All I'm saying is that is literally his point, though, and you have said contradictory things within this argument to go against what he said.
What was contradictory that I said?
You said the Titans was this schmuck win, and then when you talk about it with Joe Burrow, you said that's the
9-8 Titans that made the playoffs. Hold on, the 9-8 Titans that made the playoffs because no one wanted to win the AFC South were different than the 13-3 Titans that were the 1 seed that made the playoffs. They're two different football
Mike
teams.
Vrabel led football teams.
They're a different football team.
With Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, AJ Brown at receiver, Derrick Henry at running back. Yeah, big difference in
Derrick
football
Henry
teams.
was hurt half the year they went 9-8.
Did he play in the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay, then. So he was there. So who cares? Who cares? Who was not playing during the regular season?
Remember the game. It's fine.
I get it. You like Joe Burrow, so we're going to talk about his numbers.
Joe Burrow's better than Lamar Jackson. Anybody with 2 eyes can tell you that.
Okay, he's got no MVPs and he's not in the playoffs this year.
I don't care about MVPs.
I know you don't.
Both of them play football. One's better than the other.
I'm sure.
Eagles Packers, and by the way, this is the easiest game to pick this weekend. Easiest game to pick this weekend.
My messages.
Eagles Packers, easiest game to pick this weekend. I'll take the Eagles, and I think they're going to blow them out. I think offensively on the line, they're going to be able to push around that Packers defensive line like they did the first time. They're not in Sao Paulo, Brazil. They're going to be able to get the edge rush. The defensive line's played a lot better the second half of the season. Jalen Carter's going to dominate, and they don't have Avonte Maddox playing in the slot to allow Jaden Reed to have 2 ridiculous touchdowns. I love Philadelphia in this football game. I think they win it 31-14, and I don't think it's that close. Christian Watson is not playing. He tore his ACL. The Philadelphia Eagles are better defensively. They're better offensively. Their lines are better. I don't see where the Packers are better in this football game. I love the Eagles Sunday.
For the sake of time and speed, I will agree. I think the Eagles win 33-21. I just think they're better everywhere. They're home. I think Saquon has a day. I think Jalen be able to throw the ball. I think the Eagles go out and do their thing at home in front of the crowd. So I like the Eagles big.
I like the Eagles to win as well. I would like them to win big. I just think they might start off a little slow. With Jalen Hurts being in this whole concussion protocol, just getting back to practice, and ultimately the team having that bye week, which I think is going to be good for their bodies. We see it all the time with the teams that come off the bye. They start off a little bit lethargic there, and I think that's going to be the case here. So I think, Green Bay, if they want to have a chance in this game, I think you got to strike early. So I think you see that, but I think in the second quarter, throughout the rest of the game, it's the Eagles ball game, the entire way there. I'm going Eagles 31-23, but I don't think that's going to be indicative of what the actual game feels like. I think it's like the Packers score a late touchdown. They go for 2 to put it in like a 1 possession kind of game. So it really would be like a 31-15 or a 31-14, kind of feel. But ultimately, I like the Eagles to roll.
Last game on the docket, Sunday Night Football. Last game on Sunday. The Washington Commanders at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This, by far, to me, is the hardest game to pick. And I'll tell you why it's the hardest game for me to pick. Because I'm scared. I'm petrified. At first, I was afraid. Now I'm petrified. I don't want any parts of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I just, in my heart, I want the Commanders to win because I'm absolutely worried that the Buccaneers will come into Philadelphia and beat us. Todd Bowles is very confident against Jalen Hurts. It's one of those things where in my mind, I want to tell myself the Commanders are going to win. I'm going to pick with my heart, or not my heart, with my brain and not my heart. And I'm going to tell you, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a better football team. Baker Mayfield has played great quarterback for Tampa Bay. Let's pause there for a minute. Baker Mayfield has played great quarterback play this year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like the Buccaneers to beat the Commanders.
I'm actually going to go against you on this one. I think Tampa Bay, I think they've been a little bit too much feast or famine for me. I think Washington's probably going to try to play a lot of bend, don't break defense, not let Mike Evans go nuts deep, kind of make them just methodically go down the field. And I think Washington's going to be able to give Tampa Bay a little bit of trouble defensively. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Tampa Bay wins. If I was betting the spread, I would bet. I think Washington's +3. I think I would take the 3 with Washington. I think it's a very close game. I think it absolutely comes down to the fourth quarter. I think Washington just kind of they're that team with that kind of that weird chip on their shoulder this year, though. Not supposed to be here, not supposed to be this good this early. Jaden Daniels is playing well. They're relatively healthy. I think Washington goes into Tampa Bay and pulls a stunner. I think this is my upset of the week for me.
I'm also rolling with Washington in this one. For me, I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Tampa Bay is a team that plays to their level of competition week in and week out. If you look at their schedule, they had a pretty rough schedule to start things and ultimately lost every tough game they had. Their last 12 games, they've only beaten one team over 500. So, I mean, you know, as great as Baker's been playing, I haven't seen that same Baker versus teams that are good. And that's ultimately why he's been bounced around how he has been. Because, you know, you need the consistency there to be the franchise guy. So, I mean, for me, yeah, I think they backed into the playoffs here. They had a scare against the Saints, which that really shouldn't have happened. But on the flip side of it, for the Commanders, I mean, Jaden Daniels got a break, you know, that second half last week. They knew they had everything locked up there. And I think, you know, ultimately, I think the Commanders are the better football team. I think their offense is better in the way that they've been playing. You know, I think you can kind of get into semantics here with, you know, how the season has gone for the Commanders the entire way there. But I just think with Jaden Daniels, I would roll with him to take care of business in that game. I think he's a better quarterback in that one.
Last but not least, Monday Night Football. Cottrell, I want to start with you on this one. The Minnesota Vikings, 14-win team, is traveling to Los Angeles, headed into Rams country. Take on the Rams and Matt Stafford. Who you like in this football game?
Well, I mean, I don't think – it's funny you say it like that, but I don't think traveling to L.A. really matters. Like, I mean, every opposing team's fan base takes over that stadium there. But even with that said, though, I mean, I do like the Rams in this one. And it's not a knock on that Minnesota team. Like, I feel like I'm doing a disservice picking against them in this matchup. But I feel like, you know, Dan Orlovsky said it like 5-6 weeks ago, talking about like the Rams being one of the scariest teams in the playoffs. I truly feel that way. Like, at first I was like, he's trolling, he's trying to get clicks. But for me now, like, I truly feel that way, because when you can have an attack of Puka and Cup, and, you know, Kyron Williams has been running the ball very effectively throughout the year, and Matthew Stafford has shown you that his arm talent is there. Like, if we're just talking skill, Matt Stafford is still a top 10 quarterback in this league. I think the Rams are going to have their success on offense, and I think the surprising portion of it is that defensively, they played a lot of young guys. They've been relying on a lot of rookies or, you know, second-year players, and those guys have really started to step up. I mean, you know, Brandon Fisk and the other Florida State lineman whose name escapes me right now. They have a ton of talent there. Byron Young's been incredible this year for him on the line. So ultimately for me, I like the Rams to win this game. I think it's going to be really competitive and a really tight game. I'm going to go 27-24. You get a walk-off field goal at the end of the game.
Shao, who you like in this one?
Believe it or not, I'm taking the Rams as well. I think Minnesota. I think they're just gonna have like one of those little like miniature skids at the wrong time of the year. They played really bad against Detroit. Flying to California at all right now is kind of a little dicey with what's going on out there. But I don't think it's necessarily an easy trip. But listen, the one thing Minnesota struggles with is the run. And the Rams are going to run Kyron Williams, and they're going to run play action off of that with Cooper and Puka. I think this game sets up really well. I think the Rams are happy, offensively, that this is probably their matchup in the first round. Defensively, I think if Darnold can rebound and play a better game, obviously that Minnesota offense can give the Rams all kinds of fits with what they can do throwing the football. But same thing as Cottrell. I think it's a really, really competitive game. I do like the Rams to pull one out at home. I'll go 31-28 Rams over Vikings.
This game happened already. It happened 3 months ago. Happened in the end of October. Happened in Los Angeles. Minnesota got a raw shake here. They just definitely they need to win the last week of the season. 14-win team, and that defense is going to confuse and bother 6 out of 7 quarterbacks in the NFC playoffs. The one quarterback that's going to have little issues with it, breaking that defense down, is the one they got to play against, and that's Matthew Stafford. He's got his security blanket in Cooper Kupp. He's got his number 1 wide receiver in Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Now, to Cottrell's point about saying the Rams are a scary team, I don't think they're scary at all. I just think it's a bad matchup. I think that Rams line, no matter who they play next week, versus Philadelphia versus Detroit, that offensive line is going to absolutely abuse the Rams' defensive line. The Vikings' offensive line is not Detroit's. It's not Philadelphia's. So with that being said, I think the Rams win this football game, and I think they get taken to the woodshed next week, whether it be at Detroit or at Philadelphia.
I mean, you can say that, but I've seen Matthew Stafford go into Detroit and have some days.
You're right, but I think the difference is if you watch the Philadelphia Eagles play against them, they cannot contain. They cannot contain the trenches. The trenches is where they're going to lose. A team that has a very good defensive line or a very good offensive line, they're not going to be able to battle against. I think with Minnesota, the issue that you're running into is schemed defense is not going to bother Matt Stafford. He's going to know what you're doing and know where the ball needs to go. And it's unfortunate for Minnesota because that defense is going to work and bother the other 5 quarterbacks in the NFC playoffs.
Agreed. But I just think the other side of Detroit would be the one that I would look at there. Cause I think that can turn into a shootout just the way that the Detroit defense has played the past 6 weeks of the season. With right. Philly, if the way Philly's been playing, they've been clicking on all cylinders. So I understand. I think it's going to be a tough ask for anybody to beat Philly. So it's not even just the Rams, but I say they're scary because this is a team who I think could potentially lose this weekend. But I also think it's a team that you might be seeing in the NFC Championship game, depending on how certain things fall. I'm not saying I expect them to beat the Lions or the Eagles, but I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Lions at least.
I hear you. I do want to get your guys' opinion on one thing before we move into the fun topic, and then we'll wrap up after that. But I seen I forget who it was, but it was on the NFL Network show, and they ranked the 7 NFC quarterbacks. And I was baffled. And I want to give you guys a guess. The number 1 quarterback in the playoffs this year, I don't think you'll have too much of an issue picking who they rank number 1 as the quarterback only in the playoffs.
In the NFC?
Yes.
Assuming it's Goff.
It was not Goff. Goff was not 1.
I figured it would be Jalen.
It's not Jalen.
Jordan?
Stafford.
Stafford, yeah.
Stafford was ranked number 1 at the quarterback position.
I'm not mad at that, no.
Second, they went Jaden Daniels.
No.
Third, they went Jared Goff.
It's fine him being third, just not behind the 2 people he's behind.
Fourth, they went Jordan Love.
Jared. But
they went Jordan Love 4. Fifth, they went Baker Mayfield.
Baker's kind of the wild card. He's underrated.
6, they went Sam Darnold. And 7, they went Jalen Hurts. Thought that was interesting. If I was Philadelphia, I might take that clip, play it in practice, show Jalen Hurts to see if he can get a little motivation. I thought it was really interesting. I think Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback in the NFC that you can make a case that he could be 1 and he could be 7. It's really interesting that you can do that, but he is definitely the most Jekyll and Hyde, high and low quarterback on that list.
I disagree with you. I think there's probably, honestly, outside of probably Matt Stafford, I think every quarterback in the NFC can be your number 1 guy or your number 7 guy. I've seen the highs and lows of Jordan Love. I damn sure have seen the highs and lows of Baker Mayfield. I've seen the highs and lows of Jared Goff. Jaden might not be your 7, but he's a rookie. Anything can happen in the playoffs. And he has the explosiveness where I think if he's at the top of his game, he could be the guy. So I think all of them could be 1 or 7, but outside of Matt Stafford.
I want to bring this topic up here to I hope none of you guys are using it as you're gotta be kidding me. The topic that we're about to discuss. Neither one of you guys are using that.
Nope.
Okay. And the reason I don't want any, I really would hope neither one of you guys would be using it is you got to be kidding me, because none of it's proven yet. Now, what I'll say is this: there's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of it is almost factual. A lot of it is, I mean, you probably say there's a very good chance a lot of it's true. But there was a huge lawsuit that came out on Fox Sports, and it accused 3 members of Fox Sports. Anybody have the name? Hold on, let me get the guy's name.
It's a woman.
No,
the guy's his last name is Dixon.
Hold on, I just want to get the exact name.
Something Dixon, I think.
You know exactly what I'm talking about too. It's probably Dixon, but
yeah, he's the higher up.
Correct.
Oh, you're talking about who they're accusing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the higher up, and I just want to get his first name, Charlie Dixon. There we go. Charlie Dixon, Skip Bayless, and Joy Taylor basically took a lot of heat this week. Most of it's probably deservingly so. I do think it's really interesting that the majority of the memes and comments and controversy is centered around Joy Taylor, the one black woman in this lawsuit. I do think that's interesting, but I'll just kind of put that out there. But Skip Bayless apparently offered $1.5 million to have sex with a hairstylist. Charlie Dixon apparently, sexually, provocatively used women to put them on air and things of that nature. And Joy Taylor apparently has slept her way to the top between Emmanuel Acho and Charlie Dixon, most notably on Fox Sports. I'd like to get your guys' opinions on it, but what I will say is this, and I kind of want to just start here and then kind of pass it off to both of you guys. The saddest part about the Joy Taylor part is that there are women that are in the sports world that are all going to have their motives questioned. They're all going to be like, well, what did she do to get there? Because this came out. And that's the saddest part to me of all of it. It's like you have a situation in which you have women who've made it and worked really hard to get to where they're at. And, you don't know if they did anything to get to that point. But the part that frustrates me is that they'll all be questioned now because this came out about Joy. I'll stop there. I'll pause there. I'll kind of open it up for either one of you guys. But I think there should be more heat coming on Charlie Dixon and Skip Bayless. But I understand why a lot of it's come down on Joy Taylor.
So this is, again, I don't think anybody, I don't even care what Skip Bayless would come out and say or refute or whatever. I think the majority of the people in this country, he's already been found guilty. The complexity of the Joy Taylor situation is because of what she has said publicly numerous times. And to your point, pushed and made it sound like she was one of those women that had it hard coming up because she had to do everything the right way and work harder. She wasn't given certain opportunities because A, she was a woman, because A or B, she was a woman of color. So when you have that out there publicly and you're talking about that publicly, and like you said, you have younger women that are just getting into the industry, and looking at her. And listen, if you watch Joy Taylor, she's great on TV. She is. She's great. She knows her shit. She can talk about sports. If you're a younger woman breaking into the industry and you're watching Joy Taylor and you're like, damn, like if she's that good and she needed a break, she needed like her first job, like she needed her brother to kind of help, or like, if Colin Cowherd didn't like pick her to replace, I can't remember who she replaced, but she was good too. But, if she didn't get her break, like if Colin Cowherd didn't give her a big break and she's that good, like how am I going to make it? So now it comes out She made it the old-fashioned way. And that is why she's taking heat. It's that, and it's on top of that, it's what she said, that if it did come out and it started to go wrong, not only was she did like the guy thing. And that's why she's taking heat. She told the hairdresser that if she did get caught or this all came out, she was just going to flip it and say that Charlie Dixon was sexually harassing her when she knows full well she's sleeping with him knowingly to get where she is. That's the manipulation. That's the power. That's literally the definition of sexual harassment in the workplace. That's why she's catching heat. It's because she's been so open about what job she didn't get, or what she did get, or what she did deserve, or what she's earned, and how it's tough for women in sports. And listen, it is. Like, I'm not going to say it's not. As you look at how many women are on sports programs now, but go back like 10 years, there wasn't practically any. You had a couple anchors at ESPN that were good, like Linda Combs, people like that have been around forever. Once in a while, you'd have somebody that would host a show, and then pretty much everybody else was a sideline reporter. That was like the best they could do. You had the very few that kind of broke through. Like Aaron Andrews was one of the first ones. But like when you publicly say all that and you act that way, and then it comes out that that's not really who you are, people are going to come down on you for that. That's the way of life, man. Have it be anything. And I don't care if it's Joy Taylor. I don't care if it's Skip. If that's the way you're conducting yourself, then you deserve everything you get. Everything.
I do want to ask Cottrell this question. Do you think that her viewpoint has changed based off what she said when she started her career versus what she's saying now? Do you think this lawsuit she knew about a month ago or 2 months ago, when on the Too Personal podcast, she said, can we keep it a buck? If they're fine enough, if they're funny enough, or if their financial status is what you want, fine, funny, or effing money, you're throwing all boundary standards and all that shit you talked on Instagram about how you never would away. I mean, seemingly there, she admits that if the financial status is where it needs to be at,
I think that's more so of a personal standpoint, because like if you go back and actually like watch her interview, she went on with Taylor Rooks like on the Pivot and was talking about, how tough it is for women to break into that space. And the conversation actually came up because they were saying, Taylor Rooks basically gets everybody to open up to them. You had Jaylen Brown talking about, I'm going to win 5 championships in the next 5 years. And, she gets a lot out of people. And, they were essentially insinuating like, what are you doing to these guys to get them to say these crazy things? And, Joy was basically there, like backing her up, saying like, everyone thinks that, something's going on behind the scenes, or you have to do this or you have to do that to ultimately get these interviews or get these stories. And reality, that's not the case. Like sometimes you're just good at your job and you get to where you're at because of, how much preparation you've gone into it and things like that. So, I mean, I think for Joy, it's a big part of it is the hypocrisy in terms of how she's been talking about it. Like when you go on podcasts like that, you go on the Pivot. She was also on I Am Athlete, and they talk about things like that. Because I do think it's one thing if it's like she didn't say any of that stuff. I do think, people still talk about it. People would still joke about it. But I don't think it would be to this extent, because it's like, weren't you just the same one telling us 2 to 3 months ago that this isn't the way that this is supposed to go? But then on the flip side of it, I guess to Bill's point, about Skip, personally, I've seen a ton of heat on Skip, but it's more so just laughing at him. It's like, haha, like this is the guy who Fox paid all this money to.
Like nobody doesn't believe it.
Like Shannon left the network because of all
Stephen
this,
A went very
this
obvious
joke stuff.
Stephen A basically stood out for Skip. He was like, I don't think that guy 1.5 million. He's like, that's a tough guy. Tough to give up $15. That was what Stephen A's point of it was.
But I mean, I just think for me, like in general, the entire situation, and then of course the higher up at Fox, I don't think he's getting a lot of heat because nobody really knows who, like his picture's been floating around because he looks like a goofy guy. But I mean, outside of that, no one really knows who he is. So I think
he'll be. I mean, Skip's already gone. I don't think Joy survives this. Dixon will be the first one that quietly kind of gets canned, and they'll probably settle that side of it first because Fox Sports with him, with him being a guy, a man and higher up in power, obviously able to make these decisions and make these moves. He'll probably resign. He probably won't get fired.
The one thing that I think that's been interesting about this so far is that we haven't had a statement from anybody, anybody on the.
I think they're allowed to right now, Cottrell.
Which is fine. I understand that, but like you get these cryptic things all the time when stuff like this comes up. Like you get the every dog's gonna have his day, or innocent. So you get something, and we haven't had that. And I'm not saying that's an admission of guilt or innocence. Like maybe they're just waiting, buying their time, maybe down the line, if it comes out to be false, you see like a countersuit and things like that. So I understand there is a legal process that needs to be handled here. I'm just saying from just the optic standpoint, I think the woman who is going through with this claim, I think she could have gone through a lot of it. And again, this is just me looking at it. This is my own personal opinion. No facts involved here. Just me looking at the claim. I think how she phrased things and where she put them into that claim, it gives me a hard time it gives me a hard time to think that a lot of that stuff is not true. I just think that, you bring in Joy, essentially Joy was kind of she kind of caught a stray in the lawsuit, essentially.
She really did, honestly.
Like she was just like a sidebar to what really was going on, the whole Skip situation and all that. But she was like, I'm here. I'm just going to air it all out. So like, that's the part for me where I'm like, she didn't even have to say that. But the fact that she made sure she put that in there, like something had to have happened there. Maybe not to this extent, but
I think the comments that Joy said to her, like, get over it, like that type of, like when she looks back at that and realizes what happened, I think that's more of a, all right, we get over it. I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to get over it. And like, if she really did say that after the woman was very upset about what happened, and Joy gave her get over it, it happens. Like, mind you, like, then she deserves everything that's coming her way. So we'll see how, as more facts come out, and obviously we'll discuss it as more facts come out. But I just didn't want to not address it.
No, listen, it's probably gonna be a bigger story. Like you said before, it goes away. Skip's already gone, but if this is true and they settle or whatever, he's unhireable. Charlie Dixon will get a job somewhere else, and like
what about Acho?
What?
What about Acho? By the way, he's gotten nothing on this.
He's tough,
but I
don't know. I don't know. Yeah, see, he's tough because if they're having a consensual relationship, there's rumors out there that she was with Shannon for a while too. I don't know, unless you could prove that like he had direct sway over her getting promoted or getting a job. That's where that gets tough with Acho, because if not, it's just kind of like, all right, they work at the same place and they're in a relationship. But it's the sad part of it's going to be, again, I don't care if Skip's number on TV again. I think Joy's, again, they become nuclear, dude. Like, they're unhireable, and it's to your point with saying like get over it, and the other statement she made, like, oh, if I get in trouble for this, I'm just going to turn around and lie and say he sexually harassed me. Like, like that's what's going to sink her. Like that is like, nobody's going to want to touch her, and she's good. That's what sucks. Like, she's talented. Like, she got her break, and I hate to say it, she made the most of it, but you're never going to see her on a major network ever again if this is true. Like, she's done.
I think she can blow up a podcast, if I'm being honest with you.
Exactly. I think she can blow up a podcast, and just with the way things are going, like, I don't think Netflix will have any problem hiring her if that's what she ultimately wants to do. Amazon Prime, like, I think they can go, like, if she wants to go do something with them, like,
I don't think they have any corporate. They are not gonna. Netflix might do a documentary, and she'll get money from that. They're not going to hire her as a commentator.
Richard Sherman had a whole. Again, it was a mental, but he had a whole mental health
mental health and sexual harassment are not the same thing.
You're right. But it was like 3 a.m. and he was at his ex's house with a gun, like going through a whole spell. He was on TV that Thursday night.
Again, I don't disagree, but again, and I hate the double standard. It's still a guy versus a girl. Yep. But it's still, you're comparing mental health versus somebody who knowingly
I get it.
like.
All right, 2 hours 10 minutes. Let's get in this. You got to be kidding me.
All right, so for me this week, I'm going to Twitter here. I'm going to Twitter, and I'm going to one Shaquille O'Neal. This week for me, it's Shaq, just for he constantly is just egging on Dwight Howard for quite literally no reason. So this time around, says to Dwight Howard, Dwight Howard was essentially talking about the podcast, like on his podcast about, the issues that he's had with Shaq. Really didn't say anything disrespectful, but was just saying, I want to get over that. And Shaq goes to Twitter and mentions Dwight Howard and tries to be like this fake tough guy bully on Twitter, and says, the fact you think I care about you is funny, but I won't ever bring your name up again, sensitive man. A jokester that can't take a joke. Won't ever say your name again, ever again. Have a great day. Now you've been deleted. I never cared. Trust me. Stay off podcasts. The fact you think I care is funny. Just this whole back and forth that has been going on between the two really only stems because Dwight Howard was calling himself Superman. And it wasn't because he was trying to steal Shaq's nickname. It was just something that kind of stuck. I mean, you saw it in the slam dunk contest. He came with the cape on. Like it was never a dig at Shaq. He never said Shaq was a bad player, anything like that. But for whatever reason, Shaq has gotten to this age where he's just old and bitter about literally everything. You see him on Inside the NBA. As funny as he is, as much as I like watching him, he's always bitter about something. If Charles says the wrong thing, it's like, well, I got 4 rings. He gets super defensive. He is the sensitive big guy in this case here. So for me this week, Shaq, once again, just egging it on with Dwight Howard for literally no apparent reason.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I don't have one because I was going to do Gerard Mayo getting fired, but 2 quick little things before you go, Gene. Just to make the Chicago Bears thing even more funny, they are bringing in Matt Campbell on Friday to interview for the head coaching position. Head coach from Ohio State. And, secondly, NFL just released this that depending on what's going on with the Wildfires, if they have to move the game, they're going to move the Vikings Rams game potentially to Phoenix, play in Arizona.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You
got to be kidding me this week is Tyreek Hill. And I'll start with the fact that he refused to go back in the football game while his team still had a chance of making the playoffs. I guess he'd scoreboard watching and realized that his team – actually, wasn't their game at 1 o'clock? Let me just double-check that real quick.
The Bengals.
They were
earlier.
No, they could have still made the play. I just want to check something real quick.
I mean, the Broncos were beating the shit out of the Kansas City, so –
I wanted to make sure they were at the same time. They were at the same time. Okay.
Yeah, they were.
So he refused to go back in the football game while his team was fighting to make the playoffs. Although the Broncos were beating the crap out of the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill refused to go back in the game. Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill not playing in the fourth quarter. I was informed he was unavailable right before a drive. I was not informed it was a new injury. There were guys on the field that were competing. That's what we went with. Tyreek Hill's comments after the game. There are a lot of things that I need to reassess about my career. Hill told reporters after Miami fell to 8-9, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, whether that's here or wherever the case may be. I'm finna open that door for myself. I'm out, bro. Tyreek Hill is the same guy that left a winning situation in Kansas City to chase money and didn't win. And that's fine. It's okay to leave a winning situation and get paid. You've earned that paycheck. But to go in that situation in which they're paying you over $30 million to play wide receiver in the NFL, gave you a record-breaking contract and not be every bit a team guy, that's on you, bro. That's on you. And I hope teams out there have buyer beware written all over his forehead, because in a situation in which this guy left a winning situation to get paid, refused to go into a football game in the fourth quarter, that's a joke. I can't allow that. I can't stand for that. And as much as I hate the Dolphins' toxic culture, Jalen Ramsey also put on social media that, and by the way, he gave one of the greatest soliloquies of all time about it. If you didn't see his breakdown about the violinist that played in New York subway versus the Boston theater, played for $100 a night in the Boston theater, played in the New York subway, and we got $30 in tips. That tells you how an extraordinary talent cannot look extraordinary in ordinary situations. That was him comparing his career to what happened in Miami. Jalen Ramsey, but mainly Tyreek Hill this week are my you got to be kidding me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I got to give him credit, though. It was a really good breakdown of the orchestra.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with that is it's just two guys that are notorious for kind of being me guys.
Yep.
So it's like I don't know how much I buy into the culture's wrong, or it's just two guys that are just being themselves.
Coach has been wrong. They can't beat good teams. Quarterback can't stay healthy. They bring in all these me guys. I mean, how can you have a good culture when your best player offensively is a me guy and your best player defensively is a me guy? Like, I mean, it's tough. They ran Vic Fangio out of town.
Yep.
I mean, the culture is awful.
If you listen to them, they would have told you Vic Fangio was a bad defensive coordinator.
True. Now he's got the number one defense in the league. Weird.
Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
No, man. I am pumped for football.
I am pumped for football tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then we'll be back on here Wednesday talking more football. So I appreciate it. Katron, any final thoughts, my friend?
Nothing.
Appreciate everybody tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walsley. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own College Cottrell. Scholastic Shy, Uncle Shy, Mr. William Shawcross. And we are signing out.